Yes, my name is Anoushka Lehey, and it's my pleasure to be your host for the coming 45 minutes. Be it though with mixed feelings, because our thoughts are with the Ukrainian citizens and our partners in the region. And on the website of the Port of Rotterdam, we share updates on the impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict on the port. And there's also an overview of frequently asked questions, which is being updated as the situation evolves. But let's start now with the show today, because today's show will focus on the model shift and on the challenges on the international labor market and how these developments will impact the supply chain of the future. I am ready for it, my guests are ready for it, and I hope you are ready for it too. So let's start the show.
This is us, and this is our world. In our world, we are all connected. We are all links in the same chain. Together, we drive innovation and push for sustainable solutions. We digitalize to transform into a smart port and become a CO2 neutral logistics hub. That's how we create a future for all of us. Together, we make it happen. Let's talk.
Yes, for our first interview of today's show, I went to the Maasvlakte and I met two generations of port talents to discuss with them the impact of megatrends. So let me introduce my first two guests, Portman of the Year Bart Leenders and Young Port Talent of the Year Margriet Geluk. And let's have a look at their interview. So for our first show of today, I will meet two generations of port talents. My first guests are Portman of the Year Bart Leenders and Port Talent of the Year Margriet Geluk. Well, there they are. Hi guys, hello. Nice to see you. Hi. Well, let's go inside. So, welcome to both of you. Very nice having you here at Futureland. I also think it's a perfect place to talk with you about sustainability. Well, Bart, let me first start with you, because besides that you are the Portman of the Year, you also work for Neste, a leading company in terms of sustainability. So could you tell us first, what is Neste doing?
Well, thank you for that question, because that's the most important thing. In short, we are creating a healthier planet for our children. And how do we do that? We do that by creating products that our customers can use and reduce their emissions by 90%. And that's done, for example, by the Rotterdam refinery we have here close by, where we don't use any fossil feedstock, but still make products that can be used in existing engines. We only use waste and residues to create these products. So that is our direct contribution to the climate.
Yes, and what is your role?
My role is I'm responsible within Neste for all renewable refineries that we have in the world.
Yes, so you make renewable fuels not only for the modes of transport, but also for aviations, for the chemical sector, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. We are the world leader in sustainable aviation fuels. For example, KLM flies on our product. And the same for road diesel. We're the world leader and the biggest producer.
And what is the role of the Port of Rotterdam in realizing your ambitions?
Well, first of all, more than 12 years ago when we started, Neste chose Rotterdam as a location where Neste wanted to be, and Port of Rotterdam facilitated in getting a good piece of land and being well connected to other utility providers. So the infrastructure is one of the things where Port of Rotterdam has helped us in the past and continues to help us.
Okay, well, wonderful. We will also talk about the infrastructure, especially the labor market, of course, the talented people. So next to you, Margriet. Margriet, you are a supply chain engineer at NPRC. Maybe first of all, can you explain us what is NPRC and what is your role in that company?
So NPRC is a corporation for and of barge owners, and we have over 145 members that are sailing under our flag daily.
Okay, wonderful. So it's a cooperation. And what is your role in PRC?
Yeah, so I'm a supply chain engineer and I'm the link between our members and our customers and the IT department. So I collect customer needs with our customers and transform that into digital modules on our portals.
Okay, and how does this link sustainability?
Well, for example, we just launched a CO2 monitor yesterday, just to create awareness among our members.
Okay, so is that also important to create more awareness on this topic?
Yeah, for example, vessels are sailing with, for example, steel rolls or wood snippers, but also they are sailing empty, and we want to reduce the empty sailings.
Yes, that's very important also to create more effect. So you both work on sustainability, both from another perspective. But the main question, of course, is also how can we accelerate the sustainability change that we really need? So how is your company accelerating this movement?
First of all, by doing, and to give you an indication, today, together with our partners, we already avoid close to 11 million tons of CO2 emissions per year. And we continue to not only use today's technologies, our next step is that we will be building a facility to collect waste plastics and turn those into raw materials for processing in the existing industry. So that's by doing things. But it's also about talking, because talking is important, so that everybody understands the importance. And I believe all people, all my colleagues at Nest have the same purpose. People want to work with us for that purpose. As long as everybody is aware that we all have a contribution to make, how big or small. I just heard from Margriet about sailing with empty legs. Well, also switch off the light when you go home in the meeting room at the refinery. Simple things, but they all make a difference.
Yes, so we really need that mind shift.
Absolutely.
And so talking is important,
Yep.
the producing is important,
Yeah.
but let's also talk about implementation then, because if we really want to get all different kind of transport modes in using renewables, that's also a massive challenge, I can imagine. So can you tell us more about the status of implementation as well?
Yeah, well, first of all, if we talk about Nest's product, it's very easy, because all existing fossil engines can switch to our renewable products without any modification. Then there is other generations of technologies that we need to develop. Our new technologies, like the circular plastics, or in the next decade, electrified carbons, also will be a solution. But what we also need to do is embrace all solutions today. There is no competition in between solutions. We need everything today and as fast as possible. Yes. And if everybody understands that, then the implementation will go a lot quicker as well.
Okay, wonderful. That's a very important message, yes. Because Margriet, it's not only about improving the fuels, of course, in different modes of transport, but there is more needed to make this change, because you are really a very specialist, you could say, about digitalization. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that? How does digitalization really works for sustainability?
So another aspect of my work is allocating waste within supply chain. So we're not only looking at the transport process we are doing, but also looking with our customers at the whole process. Because, for example, waiting times can arise due to planning errors, for example, at the plant. And by allocating the waste in the supply chain, we can, for example, reduce the waiting times at the quay. And also one example is reducing the loading slots. Because now it's, for example, 24 hours. So they agreed on arrival at 6 a.m. But actually they can be unloaded at 10 a.m. So by giving that information, that insight, the barge owner doesn't have to sail full gas, but can save a little bit of fuel.
Yes, and that really makes a difference in terms of sustainability.
Yeah.
Yes. So what are then your focus points in optimizing the supply chain?
So first of all, standardization. For example, with the CO2 monitor, we asked 5 different companies, like, how do you calculate the CO2 emissions? And we chose the one that has a accountability certificate and also an ISO certificate. So we don't have to do it all ourselves. And also transparency. For example, we developed a stock control module with one of our customers in Germany. And it's really important that all stakeholders in the chain see the data real life. So they go for the bigger goal and not only their own interests.
So Bart, first of all, do you recognize this trend, that technology really makes a difference now on the labor market to attract new talents?
Absolutely, we see that attracting talents in general is an issue. And digitization is super important. Like Margriet just said, there is so much information and data, and if we use it more for the better and combine all of it, we can be so much more efficient. And whenever we don't use energy, for example, we save the climate. How do we get the right people? That is a key question. And yes, digitization is one issue, but let's not forget good craftsmanship skills in general for the whole port. Because to make information out of data, we need people that also understand what is behind it. So it's I would say, it's combining digital technologies and digital signage with the craftsmanship we have today.
Margriet, you also used your title as a Young Port Talent of the Year also to express your concerns about the number of digi-girls and digi-boys in the industry. What should the sector do to attract those new talents?
Well, as Bart said already, we need to change the image of the port, because a lot of students and young people like me are living just besides the port and don't even really know what's happening and what are the chances. And
How did you know? How did you know?
I went to the Port Harbor Days, so.
Okay, so that's the way you really get connected with the port and the world of working in a
But
harbor.
it was a coincidence, so yeah,
yes.
We need to make it more like a habit. Yeah.
Yes, so what is needed? And do you also think that the Port of Rotterdam plays an important role in attracting those new talents?
They know everyone within the port, so they can take the role and connect everyone, because the business community really needs to take a role in that one.
Yes, so the business community needs to take a role. So Bart, you are also board member of Delta Links, an organization which promotes the interest of all logistics, ports and industrial enterprises here at the main port in Rotterdam. Is it also a topic on your or their agenda?
Absolutely. As long as I'm a board member in Delta Links, we talk about the labor market, how we can make sure that we are attractive, how we can develop, how we can even help schools in the surrounding area and connect to universities to help them creating curricula showing what it means to work in the port. So that this is on our agenda for a long time. It's one of the segments we pay a lot of attention to and have a lot of we value highly.
So finally, do you have a final tip for our viewers who are also facing the same problems in attracting new talents? Maybe Bart, what's your final tip for our viewers?
What we have observed is many people want to work with us because of our purpose, creating a healthier planet for our children. And that is not just a slogan, we feel it and everyone that visits us feels it. And that's why we are attractive for employees. I will still remember 12 years ago when I started here with building of the refinery and starting Neste Netherlands, we didn't have any employees. We need to do all sorts of things to even get known and almost beg people to work for us. Now it's totally different. Those companies that in the past were the favorites now see people coming to us. And why is that? Because we're serious about our purpose. So if you want to have talent, if you want people to join you, have a serious purpose and be serious about it.
Yes.
And practice what you preach.
Yes. So a mission-driven company, being a mission-driven
Absolutely.
company. And thank you very much, Bart. And Margriet, do you have a final tip for our viewers?
Yeah, just make yourself visible and let the young people know that you're part of a bigger chain and that you can really make the difference, and let the companies, let them make the difference.
Well, I think great tips. Thank you very much, Bart and Margriet, for joining us today at the Supply Chain Talks here at Futureland, overviewing the Maasvlakte 2. Thank you very much. Yes, back here live in the studio. As we already heard, attracting talents, finding the right people for the job market in general, it is a hot topic in the industry. And the Dutch economy has more than recovered from the crisis year 2020. And there are currently more job offers than unemployed people in the Netherlands. And there are over 8,000 vacancies at companies in and around the port of Rotterdam. And the shortage of skilled people in the port is expected to increase to 20,000 jobs over the coming years. So the shortage demands differently educated employees, with a number of vacancies for data scientists and service engineers rapidly growing. Roughly 70% of the companies in the port of Rotterdam experiences difficulties finding the right people for their vacancies. So there is a clear sense of urgency in the market and plenty to discuss. So I'm very happy to have with me here live in the studio Arjen van Tilburg, Arjen, Advisor Social Innovations at the Port of Rotterdam, and live from his home office, René Boelaars. René, welcome, Managing Director Innovations and Educational Development at STC Group. Wonderful having you both with us. Welcome. Yes, Arjen, let me start with you, because we already see the logistic industry is becoming increasingly robotic and automated, which calls for a different type of employees now and of course in the future. And before we really go dive into the challenges and of course solutions, could you just first paint a picture for us where we are standing?
Yeah. Well, thank you for this question. You already said that more than 70% of the companies are facing difficulties with staffing their companies. In the logistic industry, it's the same. We are facing in 2020 a shortage of 31% of the companies that has shortage of staff. And it's still growing. And you already said 2020 was a year of a crisis. Well, the crisis is behind us.
Yes, we recovered. Yes.
Yeah. So the problem will be bigger.
So,
and also,
yes.
Sorry. And also we see a decrease of students in logistic studies from 1,800 in 2015 to 1,200 in 2020, and that's a lot.
Yes. So we have a declining influx of students. We have an aging population. Are there also specific profiles or type of businesses that experience more difficulties than others?
Oh yes. Well, currently mainly in liquid bulk logistic technology and maintenance. We see vacancies in IT jobs and in technicians. But because of aging, we see also increasing a number of vacancies in traditional jobs in the port, like boatsmen and truckers.
Yes, you could say the more practical
Yes.
jobs, but
Yes.
also the technological jobs. So what would you say, what is the biggest challenge we have to face now?
The biggest challenge is to solve the shortage of technicians and IT personnel. Because of the energy transition and the digitalization in the port, we need a lot of people with that skills.
Yes, so could you say that the current education does not really match the future expectations
Yeah.
of the job profiles?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
Because maybe then it's also nice to go to you, René, because you could say this is your expertise. You are a managing director of innovation and educational development. Is it true that the current education doesn't really fit the expectations of the new jobs that are needed?
Well, I would say that within SDC, I think that we see quite a good match between our educational offer and the current knowledge and skills demand of the labor market. All of our vocational students find jobs very easily, and even before they get their diploma, the students are very much in demand. But we do indeed see, let's say, predictions of future job profiles that seem to indeed differ from, to some extent, to what we currently teach. And I think that's a duty and a responsibility also for education and, of course, the business environment to make sure that that gap will not really go bigger or rise. So it's work on the go. So.
Yes, it's work on to go, and you need all different parties, the education partners, but also the business. But how can you actually match the supply with the demand for the next generation employees?
It all starts with a very good connection between, let's say, education and the business environment itself. Luckily, we have, for each education sector, we have sector committees that meet regularly to discuss, let's say, happenings and trends and developments in the sector. And it's also an opportunity for the companies to provide feedback towards our education and about our students and vice versa. But it's also a matter of co-creation. We do lots of, let's say, innovative projects with business environments, with research institutions involved, like the Plant of the Future, the greening of the inlet waterway transport sector. We have a share house project in which we experiment with the business environment and students on operations on automated guided vehicles and many other, let's say, field labs. I would say the biggest challenge is the fact that we see not so much, let's say, the gaps in the teaching facilities, but more the big decline in students choosing.
Exactly.
For education in the port sector.
Yes, because this sounds great. I mean, nice projects and nice initiatives, but what to do about the declining influx of students? Exactly, because how get we more students motivated to choose for the harbor-related studies?
Yeah, I would say to first of all look at the reasons for that. I think that there are three main reasons for getting to that conclusion. First of all, I would say, and already mentioned, the image perception of working in the Port of Rotterdam being strenuous work, being tough work, dirty work, the image of being low-paid skills, low-paid jobs. And I think in that respect, it does not really attract the right amounts of youngsters. Wherever we see that the sector is in transition, we see lots of innovation happening, we see digitalization, we see an energy transition happening there, but we must show it to the public, and that's I think solution number one. I would say secondly is that the port is still regarded by the sector as, let's say, a polluting sector. So there is like this energy transition should create a purpose for the next generation to say, hey, I want to contribute to let's say the greening of the sector and to be relevant for society.
Yes, because
thirdly.
Yeah, because is that because you are actually saying there is a more old-fashioned image of the harbor and the related jobs in the harbor. But what is then the main key to connect the new generation? What really helps? How can you communicate with them?
I would say that the Generation Z is what we call them. Those are, let's say, the youngsters that are now, let's say, between 12 and 27 years old, who are like mostly in between the walls in our school. It is a network generation. So first of all, you need to be where this generation is. So online visibility, being part of the network. Engaging with the generation by means of getting into contact and be part of the networks and the social networks that are in. Yeah.
So be part of the networks. We also heard Bart Leenders in the interview. He was talking about the more purpose-driven business, that youngsters, that they really want to work for a more purpose-driven company. Is that also something that you agree on, Arjen? Is it important to communicate more about purpose-driven business that actually the port is?
Absolutely. Because when companies only show what their goals are business-wise, then they won't make the connection with the students.
Yes.
So it's very important they show the bigger purpose. And there is more than only making business.
Yes, because we are in the middle of the energy transition,
Yes,
for example.
of course.
Digitization is, of course, a very important topic.
Yeah.
Do you express that good enough? What do you think, René?
I think that a purpose in itself is indeed a very meaningful way to express it and to be relevant also to society, and that's what this generation makes finds it important. So in all of, especially for us for our education, we need to express how our education would actually be contributing to a successful, let's say, energy transition. And I think that also the business environment has the same expression to make.
Yes, and what can the Port of Rotterdam do for business facing these problems of finding the right people, attracting youngsters?
Well, we are connecting partners of business, education and government to find solutions for the problems there are. We find funds and investigators,
Other parties?
Investeringen.
Finance. Yes.
Okay, I didn't find the word. And we want to investigate the sources of the problems we find, and we want to investigate which solutions there are for the problems. So that's what we do with the Port of Rotterdam to increase the
reputation and the image of working for the port.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, because showing what the work involves is also very important. So we visit also one of those young people that has chosen for a career in logistics, and we asked her about her motivation to work in this line of business and what drives her in her daily work. So it's time for our new column, People of the Port, with youngster Cicely Den Beste. She works at NPRC, so let's have a look.
Ik ben Cicely, ik ben 25 jaar en ik werk als disponent bij de NPRC. Dat is een coöperatie van binnenvaartschippers. Nou, dit is onze werkplek. Hier gebeurt het dus allemaal. Vanuit hier worden alle schepen bevracht. Daar helemaal in het hoekje is mijn werkplek. En op deze schermen kunnen we alle schepen goed in de gaten houden. Binnen de NPRC ben ik verantwoordelijk voor het bevrachten van schepen die van Nederland, van België naar Frankrijk varen. En dit zijn eigenlijk de kleinste binnenvaartschepen die er zijn, namelijk de spitsen. Deze schepen zijn zo gebouwd dat ze door de kleine sluizen en kanalen in Frankrijk passen. En hierdoor kunnen zij lading afleveren op plekken waar andere schepen niet kunnen komen. Ik ben de schippersdochter. Mijn vader vaart op een tanker, dus ik ben wel opgegroeid met de binnenvaartwereld. Ik heb een hele andere opleiding gedaan, International Facility Management. Maar het dynamische van de logistiek heeft me altijd wel geïnteresseerd. En via een aantal omwegen ben ik uiteindelijk bij de NPRC beland en ik heb echt het idee dat ik hier goed op mijn plek zit. Nou, de binnenvaart is wel overwegend een mannenwereld. Gelukkig zie je wel steeds meer dat ook vrouwelijke bevrachters komen. Hier bij ons op kantoor werken ook gelukkig een aantal dames. En bij de schippers zijn het wel overwegend mannen. Maar wat je bij onze leden veel ziet, is dat het echtparen of ook families aan boord zijn. Dus dan vaart de vrouw gewoon mee. En die helpt ook mee met varen en alle werkzaamheden aan boord. Goedemorgen Jan, met Cicely. Wat mijn werk zo leuk maakt, is het afwisselende en het persoonlijke contact met de schippers. Eigenlijk ben je iedere dag bezig om een logistieke puzzel op te lossen door het ladingaanbod zo goed mogelijk te matchen met de beschikbare schepen en zo een tevreden klant en een tevreden schipper te realiseren. Ben je op zoek naar een leuke functie in de logistiek? Denk dan ook zeker aan de binnenvaart.
Je Yes, a very enthusiastic youngster, you could say. So René, what do you think when you hear the story of Cicely?
Well, when I hear the story of Cicely, I think about passion, because that's what you see in her job. She has a very, satisfying job, which is very dynamic, with communications with lots of parties and stakeholders. So I think that's very nice to see. She could have been actually an STC student, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, a great ambassador.
Absolutely, yeah, and also because she's a lady and it's usually a male-dominated sector, so she could be an inspiration for others to also join. There are also aspects about this movie clip that I see, okay, well, there is more and more technology being, like artificial intelligence and automation, augmented reality, blockchain technology, that also will, change also the nature of her work. And we are very also curious to see what kind of different skill sets like this Sissy would also need in the future to fulfill the same kind of job.
Yes, yes. So also things to do, because Arjen, we talk about image, visibility of the sector, also attracting youngsters, also more women. It is International Women's Day, of course. Yes. So what opportunities do you see to attract more employees like Cicely?
Well, first of all, I think companies have to show more about themselves, more about what they are doing, what their goals are. Which changes they had met, and also what their purpose is in the change of the energy transition and the digitalization.
Yeah, so really working on a visibility, showing what they're doing, the energy transition as a key message.
Yes, and also we saw it with Cicely, diversification. More women in the port is very important because we have a lot more people who can work in the port when you include women as well.
Yes, so more diversity, women, youngsters, people from all different nationalities. Yes. Well, great. Well, my last question is for you, René, because what can we do on the short term, like tomorrow or maybe even today, to tackle this problem?
I think first of all, reach out to this generation to show the relevance and the impact and let's say the attractiveness of the port sector to work in, because it is a very let's say challenging but very beautiful sector to work in. And my second goal would be to start collaborating, because we're all in this together with different stakeholders. Let's say politics, governments, educational institutions, and the business environment. We should work together to join forces and to create this massiveful impact to the future generation.
Yes, well, great tips. Thank you very much for sharing all your insights and your views with us about the job market, the topic of the job market, and attracting the youngsters. So thank you both, because it's now time for our colleague, Koen Jellema. As we all know, he always shares with us the latest updates from in and around the Port of Rotterdam in his news flash. And not live today, because he is on a well-deserved holiday, but a pre-recording news flash. So let's take a look.
Not live, but still breaking news. The Port of Rotterdam operated at pre-corona levels in 2021. Almost all cargo types were up last year. One of the sharpest rises was the increase of the throughput numbers of containers. Companies in the container sector in particular performed excellent, handling a record number of containers despite the problems this sector faced last year. The total cargo throughput in 2022 is expected to be at more or less the same level as in 2021. In the container segment especially, the expectation is that the disruption of logistics will continue for a long time in 2022. Logistics service provider Maersk and the Port of Rotterdam Authority have reached an agreement on the issue of 185,000 square meter site at the southern part of the Amaliahaven. Maersk will build a 23,000 square meter cross-dock and a 35,000 square meter cold store on the site. The cross-dock will be used for the short-term storage of fast-moving consumer goods. The cold store will be used for the transshipment of agro-food products. Rotterdam is Maersk's largest port for temperature-controlled cargo. The establishment of the cross-dock and the cold store is therefore a logical step towards strengthening Maersk's position and enabling further growth in Rotterdam. Last month, Hutchison Port ECT Rotterdam signed a contract for the construction and delivery of 3 new quay cranes with an option for 4 more. The new cranes are part of an extensive investment program in the ECT Delta terminal, which includes hybrid automatic guided vehicles, straddle carriers and multi-trailer tractors. ECT is also engaged in an extensive recruitment project. More than 150 new employees have been hired. With these investments, the terminal is being prepared to continue to strengthen its position as one of the most important container terminals in Europe. Port of Rotterdam Authority and Big Mel are developing a digital program to identify transport-related emissions in the port. The goal for the coming 6 months is to include emissions from supply chains to and from the Port of Rotterdam in order to clarify transport emissions from door to door. So far, this concerns a pilot project to calculate seagoing and inland vessel movements in Rotterdam. Road and rail transport will be added at a later stage. The digital platform and knowledge gained are scheduled to be shared with shipping companies and terminals in the second half of 2022. On the site of Steinweg in the Eemhaven area in Rotterdam, a pilot project with a mobile facility for shore-based power on hydrogen for cargo's multi-purpose vessels is set to begin in late 2022. Inland ships have been using shore-based power in Rotterdam on a large scale already for a long time. However, shore-based power for seagoing vessels is complex, as electricity consumption is high and these vessels call at many different ports. Besides, many seagoing vessels do not have the proper connections for using shore-based power. The container ports of Rotterdam, Antwerp, Bremen, Hamburg and Europa are coordinating these plans for shore-based power, which will lead to standardization, lower cost and acceleration of the use of shore-based power. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.
Yes, thank you very much, Koen. Yes, well, my new guest arrived here at the table because we're going to talk about a model shift. And allow me to introduce some figures first to my viewers, because at present, 38% of the containers that move between the Maasvlakte in the port of Rotterdam and the hinterland are transported by inland vessels. 52% is moved by truck and 10% by rail. And the Port Authority aims to increase this share of inland shipping to 45% by 2030. And by shifting container transport to inland waterways, fewer trucks and drivers are needed. Inland vessels can carry many containers at once and emit fewer CO2 emissions than trucks. And that's what they call model shift. And I'm going to talk about what is needed to the model shift with my 3 new guests. First of all, Arwen Korteweg, Business Manager Containers at Port of Rotterdam. Welcome. Diederik Ezendam, Executive Commercial Manager at Barge Terminal Born. And John Bloemen, Logistic Coordinator at Lauter. Well, gentlemen, welcome to the show. Yes, Arwen, let me start with you first, because why did you invite Diederik and John to discuss the model shift with us?
Well, model shift requires a joint effort of all parties in the chain. We have the inland terminals, the barge operators, of course the shippers, forwarders, and especially also the deep sea terminals and shipping lines. And we work together with market parties, for example in Limburg, and John will tell you all about his model shift journey together with Diederik, how they succeed to have this model shift. It's not easy, but it is possible, and we will hear and will be inspired by their story.
Yes, wonderful, because this is really about collaboration, working together. And we have the south of the Netherlands present here today, Limburg, also for our international viewers. Yes, because Diederik, you work at the barge terminal in Born. What is it that you do at the barge?
Well, in fact, we transport containers from the main ports of Rotterdam and Antwerp to Born, where we have the terminal. From there, we take the containers off the barge and we put them on a truck for the last mile in the region of Born, which includes Maastricht, Aken, Heinsberg, Roermond, Genk, and perhaps Liège.
Yes, because John, you are a customer of Dietrich.
Correct.
You are logistic coordinator at Lotte, and you also it was your idea to move your logistics from trucks on the road to inland shipping. So, what motivated you to make this shift?
In my role as a logistics coordinator, I'm always looking for opportunities to save money for the company. So, and we faced huge costs in 2018. And at that moment, I thought, we have the barge terminal in our neighborhood. Why should we use it? It's in the neighborhood. It's only 33 kilometers from the plant. So, and at that point, I made the investigations. I made the talks with them. So that was the first goal, save money for our company. Second goal, of course, 300 on one barge is better than one container, on a truck. And for third, I looked forward and I saw this lack of transport of trucks and drivers, which actually happened last year.
Yes.
So that was the three goals, main goals, to switch to barge transport from Rotterdam to Born, and the last leg from 33 kilometers from Born to the plant.
Yes, so there was a financial profit, there was more the reliability, but also the environmental profit.
Correct.
And what about the cost? Do you know what you have saved since 2018?
Astonishing, actually. So when I talk per container, per TEU, we save 275 euros per container. We ship 200 containers from Rotterdam to Born. So simple count, 55,000 euros annual.
Yes.
So
a year, yes.
Yeah. So we're doing this for 3 years. So 165,000 euros savings only at transport. And as benefit, no demurrage and detention anymore, which was in 2080 only for Lotte, almost 20,000 euros.
Yes, so that's serious money,
serious money.
serious euros, you could say. So Dietrich, if it is so much more efficient and you're really saving costs, I can imagine that more customers are lining up. But is there enough capacity? Can you really make this change towards other companies?
Well, we have to split the capacity in internal and external capacity. The internal capacity is, for instance, our trucks. Also, we have the problem with the drivers. At this moment, we manage. We have the terminal, which can still grow 30 to 40%.
Because you still need those last miles.
Absolutely. Yes. The terminal is capable of growth. The barges, we now can go with barges between 200 and 300 TEUs. 8 barges per week. It's not a problem, we can even expand that. The problem is not in our hands, it's at the port. So the terminals, they cannot handle all the barges at this moment.
Yes, so that's actually your cup of tea then, Arwen, the problems at the terminal, the deep sea, you could say. So is it true that you don't always have the capacity?
Yes, we have the capacity and will expand it, but the challenge is to match the supply and demand, especially for the barge handling in Rotterdam. So you see that we are busy with initiatives in the port, but also with the partners in the hinterland to optimize the chain. We need each other for that.
Yes. So what are you doing exactly then to optimize the chain?
We have a few options. We need to improve the exchange of information for a better planning, reliable planning. And 2 is we need volume capacity for the peak volumes and the disruptions we see now in the chain, not only in Rotterdam, but worldwide. It starts in Asia, it comes here, and now we have also other challenges to meet in the world, of course. So this is what logistics drives and what makes it complex. So logistics is a cooperation of people together, doing business via Rotterdam, and for the shippers like John.
Yes, so you need the transparency, you need the collaboration, the data sharing, really to optimize the chain. So Dietrich, what can you do as the inland terminals? What is your role, or what can you do better to streamline the flows between the deep sea terminals and, of course, the hinterland?
Well, what we have done is to bundle the cargoes. We call it the Limburg Express. So with the Limburg Express is a joint barge service with companies like Danzer, European Gateway Services and Barge Terminal Born. We sail 4 times per week to Rotterdam, and we have fixed windows there at several terminals like ECT, RWG and the Euromax.
Yeah, and you also brought a video to express actually what the Limburg Express is. I suggest that we take a look. Yes, well, I think it's a wonderful initiative. So this is actually what's happening right now. So what else is needed really to convince also the shippers and the forwarders to use the shift, to make the shift to inland shipping?
Yes, I think we have to convince the people and make people aware of this alternative. Furthermore, we have to advise them of the advantages, which is financially, which is less greenhouse gases emission, and its reliability.
Yes, because it sounds so logical, but it still doesn't. It is not really a common sense yet.
No.
Because do you agree, as from a customer perspective, John?
I fully agree. I mean, we are cooperating now for 3 years on the best possible way, and I can only advise every customer to consider this way of transporting, this modality. So many opportunities you have, but it is not a one-stop, and that I have to say. It took a long time of preparation before we could implement this type of modality, the model shift.
So it's a challenge, but there is also a lot to win.
More than a lot to win.
More than a lot
to win.
Yeah.
So not only on cost savings, which actually was our main goal, but environmental. And then, sure, we face this lack of truck drivers now. And
exactly. So the reliability as well. Yes. So on three different levels, you got the profit. So Arwen, what do you expect of inland shipping for the coming next years for the Port of Rotterdam?
Now, what we see is that a lot of companies, small and large companies, already make use of barge transport. For more than 3 million TEU are transported via Rotterdam to and from the hinterland, like Born and Limburg. So we see that it's possible, and we expect also the growth in container volumes. So we need truck and rail and barge to handle this growth in future, because we have Maasvlakte 2, and it's not stopped by 50 million TEU. We expect more and larger scale of volumes. So reliability and sustainability and using the infrastructure we have on road, rail and waterway is essential for our future.
Yes, well, I think it was very nice having you guys with us, because it's incredible to see what can be achieved by working together. So thank you very much for sharing this great example with us and our viewers. Yes, and before we say goodbye to you, it's time for our latest coffee catch-up. And business manager Daniel Bollard, he visited the ProGeco terminal in the Waalhaven, together with Toon Pauwels, COO of DP World. And they spoke about inland shipping solution for shipping river containers from and to the hinterland. Let's take a look.
Ik ben hier vanavond in de Waalhaven om bij te praten met Toon Pauwels van DP World. over de diensten van DP World, maar met name over temperatuurgevoelige producten. Groente, fruit, vlees en vis vinden onze weg via het containerschip, maar ook chemicaliën en farmaceutische producten kunnen we steeds vaker zien over zee in plaats van door de lucht. Deze temperatuurgevoelige producten gaan in een reefer, ook wel koelcontainers genoemd, en dit segment heeft een aantal ontwikkelingen. Hoi Toon.
Wat is je koffie?
Alsjeblieft. Ja, het mooie aan deze locatie is dat we naast de Bolero staan. Wat is er volgens jou nodig om weer reefers op de barge te krijgen?
Wij zijn deel van een totale keten. Goederen moeten aankomen en op bestemming aankomen. We hebben import en export. Ik zal het transparantie noemen, zichtbaarheid, waar zit de container en wat zijn de noden. De betrouwbaarheid van onze dienstverlening is wat we eigenlijk verkopen, wat we nodig hebben. Hetgeen waar we tegen vechten is perceptie. Niet alles is onbetrouwbaar. Lading komt aan, lading komt op bestemming en veelal loopt dat goed. Het zijn alleen die pieken die maken dat we vechten tegen een gevoel van het werkt niet. En dat is lang niet zo. Soms loopt het mis, heel vaak loopt het perfect.
Zullen we lekker warm worden binnen en aan boord gaan?
Ja, dat is goed.
Dank dat we hier mochten komen. Op de Bolero. Zo.
Wat vind je ervan?
Ja, gaaf. Leuk om hier een keer te zijn. Wat is de capaciteit eigenlijk van het binnenvaartschip?
500 ton ongeveer. 498 denk ik.
En er kunnen ook aardig wat reefers op, begreep ik.
Ja, we gaan er hier vandaag 32 laden.
We hebben het gehad over ontwikkelingen van de binnenvaart in relatie tot het reefersegment. Welke kansen biedt de barge?
De lichter is flexibel. Wij kunnen daar heel veel volume in verwerken. Die volumes die kunnen we op één vaargebied verspreiden.
Ja.
Veel stops, verschillende plaatsen op heel grote afstand. Als je dat vergelijkt met treinen, dat is allemaal mooi, zeer snel, redelijke capaciteit, maar dat is punt. Van A naar B. Als je dat vergelijkt met een vrachtwagen, immediate action, heel snel, maar één container. Naar één bestemming, één locatie. Dus die flexibiliteit die is priceless.
En als we dan kijken naar kansen, hoe kunnen we nou gezamenlijk in deze keten het reefersegment op de binnenvaart promoten? Kijk ik ook met name onszelf aan als havenbedrijf.
Wat we nodig hebben is die ketenbenadering. We moeten zichtbaarheid krijgen waar dat de container zit. Er zijn goederen die heel snel van A naar B moeten. En dat is de perceptie die we hebben rond reefers. Alles moet zeer snel. We weten niet wat er in die containers zit vaak, we weten niet hoe snel ze op bestemming moeten zijn. Dus als we dat in kaart kunnen brengen, dan zullen er veel meer reefers die vandaag hun weg naar het water niet vinden, via de lichter kunnen verscheept worden.
Toon, hartelijk dank voor dit interview. Fijn dat we konden bijpraten. We hebben het in het interview gehad over de ontwikkelingen in de binnenvaart in relatie tot het reefersegment. We staan op de Bolero in de Waalhaven, midden in de actie. Ontzettend gaaf, maar de kansen zijn er nog steeds om dit segment te optimaliseren. Dit was het einde van de koffievlog. Terug naar jou, Anoushka.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel. Great interview. Yes, and also this concludes the show for today. Thank you all for watching the 5th edition of Supply Chain Talks. And it was my pleasure to be your host again. And looking forward seeing you again for our 6th edition. Live, we'll broadcast this one live from Stuttgart. So hope to see you there. And for more information about our topics in the show, please visit our website, rotterdam.com, or contact your business manager at the Port of Rotterdam Authority. And make sure you listen to our latest podcast episodes in which we discuss climate change with the Portman of the Year talent Bart Leenders, and secondly our newly released podcast with Margriet Geluk on supply chain of the future. Very interesting to listen, so I hope to see you, hear you there. Looking forward seeing you next time, and in the meantime, take care of yourself and, of course, also of each other. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.